Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Apex Racing TV, and welcome back to the Detroit Region SCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Superlap. This is round number 4 of this season, coming to you tonight from Road Atlanta. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Bichelle, and in the virtual production hall, we have our old buddy Josh Wilkie. To get the second half of this season underway, we head to a storied track in the history of the SCCA. Road Atlanta was a longtime home of the SCCA National Championship runoffs, and it's a track track that these GT4 drivers will have to tackle tonight. Charles, we have done our fair share of broadcasts around here, so I think we are very much so on the same page when it comes to talking about this track.
Yeah, it's classic road course, and it seems like every other week we're doing a race here, a broadcast. So yeah, it is one of the best tracks in the world, to be fair. It's fantastic. It doesn't matter what cars you're driving here, whether it be something very low powered single seater or the GTPs. It's just really good racing, and it's a challenging course. Some different sectors, some technical, some just flat out hard as you can drive, but it's always a good race.
I know, funnily enough, talking about the experience that we both have covering races around here, I was actually looking through my the playlist that I have put together of all the broadcasts I've been on thus far this year. This is like my 4th or 5th broadcast of a race at Road Atlanta ever since January 1st. I am getting very familiar with this track. By the end of this broadcast, in fact, I may be able to tell you exactly how you can get to all the bathrooms once you enter this track in the sim. But just getting to the end of this qualifying session right now, and it should be known that Paul Darling going to grab the pole position for this race. Darling off the back of a win at that very chaotic race at Laguna Seca 1 week ago. Russell Soto set to join him on the front row, but Paul Darling doing a rousing job to grab a pole.
Yeah, absolutely. Great run. I was watching that, and it's Russell Soto's usually up the front, and it's no exception. However, he's not on the pole. It is Paul Darling tonight, but I got this feeling we're going to have a really good race up at the front of the field. There were several cars that were very, very close time-wise, so we're looking forward to seeing that battle up at the front. And there were a lot of cars in the mid-packs that were, hundreds of seconds off in qualifying, so it might be a good battle all the way to the back of the pack.
And as we see a near miss coming out of turn number 5 involving some of these racers. I gotta say, on the subject of this field being very close together in that qualifying session, and to show you how close, we'll just say that Paul Darling, our pole sitter, set a 1 minute 24.7. The final driver inside the top 10, inside the top 20, set a 126.7, and the slowest driver in that qualifying session was at 129.5. So rather close in that qualifying session. And Charles, I think part of the reason why that is the case is because, just based off the fact that we've done a lot of broadcasts of this track thus far. I think it's our second time doing a broadcast in the span of a couple of weeks here on Apex Racing TV, with Operation Motorsports coming out a couple of weeks ago. I think these drivers are rather familiar with this place as well, and I think that's part of the reason why those times were as tight as they were.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you get to these tracks where there's a lot of usage in iracing and the officials, Road Atlanta is one of those. I would say Watkins is probably the top one, but Road Atlanta is not far behind, I wouldn't think. But yeah, the more usage you get in the official series, the more confidence the drivers have when they're out here running laps, and will absolutely make it a much more competitive race. And we're talking about visiting here. I did hear some of the drivers speaking during the I guess the end of qualifying, just talking about the last time that the DRSCCA was here. I believe we had a pretty interesting incident that happened here in the DRSCCA with the F4 cars, if memory serves.
Yep, and that, I believe, ended up on one of the highlights reels here on Apex Racing TV. A driver struck the bridge coming out of the turn 10 chicane, heading down into turn number 11. So I feel like it would be a bit tricky to do that in one of these heavy GT4 cars. Compare the GT4 to the Formula 4s we were racing at that point in time. That was back in the fall of 2024. Lots of 4s there in the span of a couple of moments, but these cars are absolutely massive compared to those. So the amount of force that you would have to collide to strike the bridge around here, that honestly, I would consider that to be an achievement more than anything else. But speaking of it, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Sometimes you can just get lucky or unlucky, depending if you're the one driving the car. But you get one of the cars in the class that are backwards, and the next thing you know, you've got yourself a homemade ramp. but I don't think any of the GT4 cars are gonna quite fit the parameters there to make all that happen. So yeah, I don't see us replicating that tonight, but there will be some really exciting racing, and I think that near miss we saw in turn 5 will not be the last time you see a car headed the wrong direction coming out of turn 5. That is the trickiest corner on the track, and absolutely will cause more incidents as we go through this race tonight.
Yeah, I think we're going to be swapping out the bridge wax for some curb wax around this track. 12 corners in length, originally opened back in 1970. The track only took 6 months to build. I mentioned in my open that it was a longtime home of the SCCA runoffs. In fact, hosted them from 1970 all the way up until 1993, when I believe they switched to Mid-Ohio, where it stayed for a couple of more years. Now on a rotation and currently being hosted at Road America. Played host to them back in 2024. Will play host yet again in 2025 and 2026 as well. But Road Atlanta, still a wonderful racetrack. 12 corners in all around this 2.54 mile, 4.088 kilometer road circuit with some storied history to it as well. This back straightaway making up a decent chunk of the lap at 0.8 of a mile or 1.3 kilometers, heading down into the turn number 10 chicane, which was one of the last major alterations done to this racetrack, added back in 1998, which was the first ever year that the Petit Le Mans was held here all the way back then. You can see it's also a spot for some chaos in this warm-up session. The lap record around this track set by Christian Klein at the 2008 running of the Petit Le Mans in a Peugeot 908, that wonderful LMP1 car that was one of my favorite cars driving around Forza. I nearly said Forza Horizon, Forza Motorsports 4 back in my youth. I remember doing hundreds of laps, what felt like in that car, but pretty quick lap time is the lap record around here as well, 107.056, which is a blisteringly quick lap time compared to some of these GT4s. These GT4 drivers still going to be hauling the mail. 124.7 around here for a pulse hitter of Darling, not a slouch of a time at all.
Absolutely not. No, it's that's a pretty quick lap. Obviously, we're slotted in between a couple classes with these GT4s. Not quite the same pace as the GT3 car. Some of the slower cars that you'll see here with some of the open wheel SCCA cars like the Formula Ford or the Spec Racer or something like that. Obviously, quite a bit more pace than those cars. So a good challenge here, because these cars makes a pretty good pace, but not quite as much downforce as one would always like to have. So it's a good challenge to make it through these corners. And my guess is we'll see more here in the turn 10A, B, and chicane, as we see Ari Reuter over there just taking the escape road there, just kind of missed that and got out of rhythm through that chicane. So it's one of those things we'll have to keep an eye on, because there's opportunities for really good battles through there, but there's also obviously opportunities for severe accidents.
And lots of spots to shine and lots of spots to sink around this racetrack. It's going to be a good race here for round number 4 of the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Superlap. And speaking of Superlap and some of the other fantastic partners to put on this racing action, we've talked about them a lot throughout the season. We'll continue to mention them, because here in the DRSCCA, we have got some great sponsors. Coverage of the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series on Apex Racing TV is brought to you by the DRSCCA. The Detroit Region Sports Car Club of America, aka the DRSCCA, has been providing motorsports events since 1948. With over 1,400 members, there is no shortage of knowledge, history, and trailblazing ideas like this Sim Racing League. Thank you to all the participants and spectators for being a part of the augmentation and evolution of the region. The DRSCCA, of course, goes far beyond the virtual realm. In 2024, the region has hosted hosting over 40 events over 60 days that can get you both behind the wheel or so close to it that it'll blow your hair back. The gamut of behind-the-wheel events includes road racing, road rally, rallycross, autocross, and a competition driving school. Support for the Detroit Grand Prix, Formula SAE programs, and Street Survival are also amazing opportunities to help sculpt future and professional drivers. Check out DRSCCA.org for more information. Additionally, we would like to thank Waterford Hills Road Racing, Metro Detroit's only permanent sanctioned road course. Waterford Hills, located in Clarkston, Michigan, hosts a 6-weekend race series, competition driving school, and 9 public open track days. The track is hot from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on these event days and is open to the public. A nominal $5 entry fee is all it takes for you to get close to the action. Check out waterfordhills.com for more details. An additional thank you goes to the Michigan Turn Marshals for their support as well. If you'd like to get close to the action, be sure to check out michiganturnmarshals.org. They can train you to support races like the 2025 Detroit Grand Prix. And last but certainly not least, we would like to thank the supporting partner of the DRSCCA series, that being Superlap. Located on the world-renowned Woodward Avenue in Berkeley, Michigan, Superlap is a sim drive studio, a space to meet and compete. With professional-grade racing simulators, they are a premier racing and driving experience venue. They will help you achieve your motorsports goals with education, practice, and training. If you're a race fan, you may be familiar with Formula One. Well, interestingly enough, the reigning 3-time Formula One world champion is a pretty big proponent of sim racing. If Max Verstappen uses a sim, shouldn't you? You can race and practice against an AI roster, go head-to-head with other humans, or both for that matter. They also offer league play like the DRSCCA League. Go to superlap.world for details. Thank you to all the partners and people who make this series and these broadcasts possible, and now on with tonight's action. Coverage. And what a race it is going to be here for round number 4 of this championship at Road Atlanta. We only got 6 races from this season, so you got to strike while the iron is hot. And Paul Darling looking to become the first driver this season in the pro category to win back-to-back races. So let's take a look at the starting grid to get this night of racing action underway. And it will be Paul Darling in the Solpack car, starting this race from the pole in the 155 car. Russell Soto set to join him on the front row. We have Ari Reuter starting this race in 3rd. Next to Kevin Rold, a previous winner from the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series, in 4th. Ryan Goff will start this race in 5th. Next to Zohar Ahmed in the number 7 car in 6th. Sean Fritz will find himself starting this race in P7. Next to Anthony Cuthbert starting in 8th. Trent McMillan will find himself starting this race in 9th. And riding at your top 10 is going to be Zane Cross.
Yeah, Andrew Mowat starts in 11th and is the highest of the AM drivers tonight. Andrew Herschel starts in 12th. As we roll to the next page, we got Dom Batts in P13, Eric Halsbond in 14th, Lincoln Olson in 15th, Bob Keach in 16th, Stephen Kahn in 17th, Corey Smith, second of our AM class drivers, in 18th, Eric Christensen in 19th, Richard Shaib in 20th. Alexander Reuter in 21st, Yanto Van Esch in 22nd, David Marino in 23rd, Chad Geidel in 24th, Matt Malone 25th, Mike Schmidt 26th, Cody Hicks 27th, Jackson Olson in 28th, Andrew Little 29th, Sean Gaynor in 30th. Arush Kumar in 31st, Alan Robson in 32nd, Abdul Huda in 33rd, Ahmed Bedouin in 34th, Dustin Dark in 35th, Luis Bellata in 36th, as we've got just a couple more, David Grudzinski in 37th, Kyle Baran in 38th, and rounding out your 39 car grid, we have Chris Walker.
And thank you for going through all those, Charles. I appreciate that. I'll give your voice a little bit of a rest here and yap a little bit, which is something that comes very naturally to me. Kyle Barron and Chris Walker should be known that neither of those two drivers have taken to this formation lap, so it looks like we're only going to have 37 starters. Yeah, only 37 GT4 cars set to tackle this track in a couple of moments' time. These drivers looking to get the second half of this season underway the best way that they possibly can. And for Paul Darling, it's been a good season up to this point off the back of his first win of this season at Laguna Seca 1 week ago. Andrew Mode, your pole sitter in the AM class, already has 2 AM wins, those coming at Navarro for round 2 and Laguna Seca for round 3, looking to try and keep his grip on that AM class. But heading into this race, Charles, we've got lots of storylines heading into it. What is the one that you're going to be keeping your eyes on the most?
Yeah, you just got to be patient here. It's the key to this race is keeping yourself clean through that first lap. There's going to be lots of people trying to take advantage of the start, but you're on cold tires. You got cold brakes. These cars going into turn one are going to be trying to just push as hard as they can and stay on the track. But you got to get through that first lap with the cold tires and get those up to temp. Then you just make life a little bit easier, and you can just kind of pick off cars one by one, keep yourself clean, and you're going to end up with a good result.
Yeah, try and keep your car as clean as you possibly can to finish first. First, you have to finish, and that's going to be etched into these drivers' minds. The green flag is at, and the drivers are on their way. That's a pretty even kill start with both of our front row sitters. Looking at that as the field heads their way down into turn number one, trying to strike while the iron is hot and make up some moves, and already seeing some drivers go for some overtakes. Side-by-side racing, though, heading down into turn number two. That's some close quarter stuff with our drivers at the front of the field. Paul Darling going to withstand that challenge from the number 50 of Russell Soto. The drivers crew reading their way, and contact being made heading down into turn number three. That is a spinner a little bit farther in the mid-pack. Ari Reuter has also had a moment. Multiple cars going off the track heading through the S's. That's a big moment for many drivers. Wall contact, car contact, all sorts of contact heading their way off through the S's for the first time.
Yeah, it was a pretty serious accident. There were several cars involved. Those got Sean Fritz, Ari Reuter, who was running in fourth at the time. Janto Van Esch is also dropped to the back and already towed back to the pits. But the top three managed to survive. Darling still in first, Soto second, and rolled in third.
That's how it stands at the present moment. Not even done with the first lap of this race, so there's still a lot of time left to go for these drivers to try and get those moves done. May end up seeing Richard Shaib, who we're riding on board with right now, try and get some moves done. He's already made up 4 spots since the drop of the green flag goes. Going off the track, that's Christensen heading down into the turn number 10 chicane. He is joined in that off-track excursion by Smith, who's very slow heading through that section. Matt Malone going to make up some moves now up to P18 in that McLaren. But multiple drivers getting bit by the bullet at the very start of this race. Here we go, though, side-by-side racing with Kahn and Moed. Moed, your leader, still in the AM category, dropping down to lucky number P13 in the number 14 car. He has a small little cushion back to Ahmed running at 14th as it stands at the present moment. But for your AM leader, probably doesn't want to use up that cushion too early on.
No, absolutely not. Wants to kind of keep that gap between himself and Kumar back in P20. It's only 4 seconds, but there's a lot of traffic between the two cars. So that's the way he wants to keep it for the as long as he can, and let Kumar try and come up to him instead of him falling back to Kumar. That was a nice rejoin, by the way, for Christensen coming through and just going too deep through the chicane. Nice, solid rejoin, safely done. So hats off to him for that.
Ooh, so we just saw some good side-by-side fighting going on involving Matt Malone and Cody Hicks heading through the bottom end of the circuit of turn number 6 and 7. Looks like they got away with that rather scot-free outside of a little bit of lost time to the back of Moreno, currently occupying P16. Side-by-side racing still continuing all throughout this field, and a little bit farther up in that camera shot, we saw some side-by-side racing with Moed and Ahmed. The 14 and the 7 going side-by-side, battling for P13 as it stands at the moment. But some drivers going side-by-side in the early stages of this race didn't end very well for the Belgian. This is Iato Van Esch heading down into the S's, and multiple cars going off. And there we go. More contact before he hit the wall.
Yeah, that was, I think Van Esch was just driving into another accident. I think it was people checking up and making moves. And not anything, didn't see anything he did wrong. We're on board here with Sean Fritz. We got the car. I think that was that Reuter up there at the front actually spun coming through turn 4, and that was the catalyst for all that everything behind.
Yeah, that incident snowballed. It was 1 incident, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. It just snowballed out of control. It's unfortunate for all the drivers that got a piece of that accident, but hey, heading through the S's around a racetrack like this, occasionally some bad stuff will happen. Here's Sean Gaynor in at that number 31 Porsche. Let's look at him heading all through the first few corners right now. Into 2 and 3, contact being made with the Aston Martin right in front of him. That's going to spin him around. That was at the very start of this race. I saw that Porsche going backwards. I was like, oh, we already have an incident. And then a matter of about 10 seconds later, we saw that big Schmazel heading off through the Essence.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that was just kind of a standard checkup when you're in the back. You got to just adjust yourself for the speed of the cars in front. Excuse me there. So yeah, it was. Luckily, I think he managed to get off the track safely, and also, I don't think he made any wall contacts. He'll have a chance to make up a few spots.
Yeah, so still in it as it stands at the present moment, and hey, just being around for the finish can make up a big difference. We saw that get put on full display 1 week ago with the Laguna Seca round in a race that was packed full of attrition. Here at this, I say more well-known of a quality of a racetrack as if Laguna Seca is this mystery land. It's a track that a lot of these drivers have experience running on, so I think we may end up seeing slightly less attrition, doubly so considering there are some good overtaking opportunities, especially heading down into the chicane of turn number 10. That's Moreno blinking and out of existence right behind this man, Andrew Mode, who's your still AM leader as it stands at the present moment. Looking to go for 3 straight, and Andrew Mode finds himself in a very good spot to do that. The next AM competitor, I believe, is Cody Hicks in the number 19 car. He's not marked with with a blue ticker, but I believe he is an AM driver. Yes, he is. He's made up a lot of moves thus far, up 11 spots as Matt Malone trying to give him a little bit of challenge heading off into turn number 10. But Andrew Mowat, as much as he's had a good season up to this point and has a good cushion, I think he may want to put his nose to the grindstone and build up a bit of a gap to himself and Cody Hicks.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think, we kind of overlooked Hicks because he didn't have the little blue mark beside his name, but he is an AM driver. And he's only about a second and a half behind Mowat, so yeah, much closer class battle than we originally thought. So Mowat's going to have to keep his eyes open and keep his head down and see if he can stretch that gap out a little bit. This will naturally just get a little bit further apart between all these cars. They do draft fairly well, but obviously there's only a couple really good opportunities for drafting, and I don't think you're going to make up just tons of time. So you're going to have to be just better all around on the track in order to make up any positions. But there are places, as you mentioned, going out into turn 10, that is the premium overtake opportunity to try and do it on pure pace. Then the rest of the time, it's just going to be how much better can I drive the track than the rest of the cars.
And I will say, considering we saw these two drivers go side by side a couple of moments before this moment where they're going side by side, the bottom end of the circuit, turn 6 and 7, maybe a good spot for these drivers to overtake as well. But there we go, Malone trying to get that move done on Cody Hicks, hang down the back straightaway off into turn number 10. Hicks still going to have that inside line, and there you can see Malone holding it on the outside through the first part of the chicane. Hicks still holding his own on the exits. That's going to allow him to remain in P16. Looked like Cuthbert was trying to get some moves done there as well, the number 36, but just was not close enough at the end of all of it. But as we still see this race develop, rapidly approaching upon the first third of this race being completed, and for Paul Darling, it has been a dream start, but he still finds himself having a big challenge from Russell Soto behind, about 2.5 tenths of a second between the drivers running P1 and P2.
Yeah, it's still pretty close up to the front, and that's what you expect. Those are, two very, very fast drivers. In any race that Darling hasn't been in, Soto's pretty much won. Darling's has got his victories also. So yeah, it's no surprise that they're up front. I think the issue with Ari Reuter there at the beginning of the race probably is kind of helped pull Goff down just a little bit, enough to get him out of the draft, and then those guys have just hunkered down and just took off and stretched that gap out to over 5 seconds.
It's worked out really well for the drivers who've been able to build up some sort of advantage. Kevin Aroldo just dropped down the running order behind Lincoln Olsen and Trent McMillian, so not sure what happened to the driver of the number 17 car. Maybe just got some moves put on him heading down into turn number 10. Yeah, still involved in this battle. He's got Keach right behind him, though, as we see the concentration from Kevin Aroldo running 7th as it stands currently. Let's see him try and go for the move heading down into turn number 1. Gets it done on McMillian, and Keach trying to follow him through to slip his way up into P7. Trent McMillian in that number 21 BMW, feeling the pressure and feeling the burn at the start of the 7th lap.
Yeah, he really is. I think the BMW is probably not the if you're gonna pick a car for this round. I think that the BMW is probably not at the top of the list. I think just because of the, it's a little bit bigger than the rest of the GT4s. Probably doesn't have quite the turning ability that say the Porsche does. So probably not the car, but I know that McMillion's been driving that the entire season, so he's obviously very comfortable with the car. As we get a battle down the third between turns 5 and 6, very tight there. You have to be careful as not push him off the track. We want to keep these. There's a contact coming through 7.
A contact being made right at the bottom end of the racetrack. That was Christensen and Schmidt. The 129 car, he's not going to be very happy about all of that, and not a very smart call to annoy Mike Schmidt, considering he is one of the series admins here from the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series. So let's take a look at this incident. What may be Eric Christensen's final race? Actually, no, I'm just kidding. I'm sure Mike Schmidt's not going to be too ticked off, but that was not going to work either way from Eric Christensen. I think that was a move of desperation.
I think it was. I mean, it's obviously advantageous to go down the inside, but you're on the inside 3 wide through 7, and that's not a corner that even 2 wide works really well most of the time. So 3 was never going to get that done.
As we follow Eric Halsband in the HP Racing car, heading his way down to turn number 5, and I was just going to note, because this camera was blinked at there on our broadcast. Clearly doing this race from a black hole. So, I mean, credit where credit's due to Eric Halsband from dragging his sim rig over to the event horizon of a black hole to be able to compete in this event. He's currently running at depth as it stands at the moment in the 255 car. There we got him up on screen right now. I gotta say, Charles, whenever we got a chance to see these drivers as they're behind the wheel, always gives us good perspective about what's going through their mind whenever they find themselves in a real intense battle, or occasionally some of the drivers will just wave at the camera, and I've had some experience of that just knocking me out. Oh boy, that is Ahmed heading down into turn number 10, going way too quick. I think he just gunned it through the runoff area, and oh, that was close with himself and Halsband having a heart in the throat moment coming back down the hill.
Yeah, that was, I mean, as far as regoing, obviously he was way too fast coming in through 10, and you could just see him just cut straight through. Now, when he rejoined the track, that was a fairly safe rejoin. It was just very, very narrow to the edge of the track, but they were still battling 2 wide as they were coming out of the chicane, and so that made it 3 wide coming over the crest, and that's very, very dangerous. Everybody's lucky they got through that one.
Yeah, that could have easily been a glorified round of bowling heading down into turn number 10. I just realized the irony of mentioning that turn 10 is going to be a point of bowling, considering 10 pins and all that stuff. I feel like me explaining that may have actually ruined the joke. Let's follow Lincoln Olsen running a P6 as it stands at the moment. He's been a hard charger thus far, up 9 spots from where he started in this race, but he is not the hardest charger of them all. Looking through the field, the driver able to make up the most amount of spots ever since the drop of the green flag is currently your 20th, actually, no, not 20th, your 19th place runner, second tries at charm, of Arush Kumar. That driver, the number 46 McLaren, finds himself up 12 spots from where he started in this race, which is equal to the amount of positions gained from our hard charger 1 week ago, interestingly enough.
Yeah, it's having a good run so far. Kumar's just, we were thinking he was actually, second in the AM class, but he's actually third. He's right behind Hicks, so he'll be battling for that second spot very, very quickly as they're working their way up, trying to make their way up to Moed, who's still leading in P14 overall in a battle there with Ahmad, and has managed to let that one go. So he's in P14, and Kumar's dropped back, so I think he's maybe off the track.
Don't tell me I jinxed him. Please do not tell me that I jinxed Kumar. I think I jinxed Kumar. God dang it. I deeply apologize, Mr. Kumar, for that. That's Not the first time I've done that in my broadcasting career, which is coming up to 2 years old now. Holy cow. Not the first time I've done that. Certainly won't be the last either. Let's see Arush Kumar coming out of turn number 10 through 11 right now. Did he try and go side by side, hang off into turn number 12? He certainly tried to go for it. Runs a little bit wide, off into the dirt. No harm, no foul there. At the moment, hang off into turn 1, goes for the dive, heading into it, and that wasn't a jinx. That was entirely self-inflicted, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, making that move to the inside at turn 1 did look like it just there was a gap, then there wasn't, and that happens more often than not at turn 1 when you start battling side by side through there. Is that because of the angle of attack there through the apex? Just not enough room there, and contact made with the other McLaren that he was battling with. And it might have been either Hicks or Geidel, not really sure.
Either way, that is going to cause your at 1 point hard charger in this race to drop down like an anvil pushed out of a helicopter. He was up 12 spots from where he started in this race, which was the same as our hard charger of David Moreno 1 week ago at Laguna Seca. The hardest charger thus far is actually Dom Batts, who was the hard charger at VIR. He finished 25 spots up from where he started that race at VIR to kick this season off. That was a brilliant race as well. We'll note your current hard charger is now Little in the number 37 car, currently running in P18, up 11 spots from where he started in this race. Is side-by-side racing going to flare up with Alex Reuter, trying to get moved on Hicks, heading down into turn number 7. Gets a move done in rather convincing fashion. Reuter, as we talk about hard chargers, it's always a little bit of an achievement to find some drivers in this field who are running in the same spot that they started in this race, and Reuter is one of them. These two are also a couple as well. Paul Darling and Russell Soto, P1 and P2. They've been going tit for tat in terms of fastest laps, and they've also been extending that gap between themselves and Golf in P3. Soto currently holding on to the fastest lap. However, Paul Darling not too far behind him in terms of pace of both of them in the 125.3 bracket. Holy cow.
Yeah, 0.6 of a second after, over 16 minutes of racing. They've got that gap out to over 9 seconds, almost 10 seconds at this point. So just fantastic drive by both these guys, as you would expect. And so they're going to work their way down the back stretch here again, as we're about 13 minutes and a few seconds left in the race as they're heading down. And they're obviously Soto too far back to make a challenge at this point. So he'll start working to see if he can close that gap up and maybe make that run toward the end of the race.
And looking a little bit farther behind them, this is Ryan Goff running third at the moment in the number 16 Mercedes. Haven't really mentioned him at all ever since the drop of the green flag, but he's putting on a pretty good race, as is Zane Cross, along with Kevin Rold, who are the final two cars inside the top 5 as it stands at the present moment. Kevin Rold, a former race winner from this season. He actually won the opening race at VIR under rather odd circumstances with that last lap. Only a few corners left to go collision between Russell Soto and a lapped car that allowed Kevin Rold to squeak away from that, even with him getting collected in the incident himself, as we see these drivers having to deal with some lap traffic. Zane Cross running in fourth as it stands at the moment, up 6 spots from where he started in this race. A valiant effort from that number 3 Mercedes. Doing it for Dale. I just had to.
Yeah, he's having a good run. Obviously, he's up 6 positions, so he's done really well thus far during the race. And he's got some work to do. He's got another 2.3 seconds up to the next car of Golf. So, he's got some time to try and close that down. Trying to look at their he's got a pretty good he's had some really good pace as far as his last lap. He was 0.4 faster than Golf. So obviously opportunities there to make up some time and maybe get onto the podium for this race.
Yeah, still a decent amount of time left to go. You think, oh yeah, in the grand scheme of a 30-minute long race, only having 11.5 minutes left feels like practically nothing. But hey, a lot can happen in the span of 11.5 minutes. We got a decent amount of laps left to go. There's a decent amount of opportunities for these drivers to either make up a lot of time or lose a bucket full of time in the span of a couple of moments. So Got a lot of time left to go and a lot of things that can happen between now and the end of this race. Here's Alan Robson running in 25th as it stands at the present moment. That 20 Porsche is currently the final car inside the top 25, and a rather simple looking paint scheme on that. The other red, black, and white. Don't usually see some very flashy schemes in this series. See the more simple ones, but beauty can very much be found in simplicity.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
And I was going to tack on to that as well, talking about beauty can be found in simplicity. I kind of apply a similar saying to my broadcasting career, where professionalism can be found in being a simpleton. That's usually the way that I like to go about my broadcast. Oh boy, here we go, side-by-side racing with Zohar Ahmed and Richard Shaib heading down into turn number 6. That's going to allow Ahmed to slip his way up into P12 in that number 7 car. Shaib so up 7 spots from where he started in this race. However, he's now starting to feel the burn from Andrew Mowat right behind. We'll note that battle for the AM class lead has cooled down a little bit as a result of the drama that we saw from Cody Hicks. He's now down in 22nd, quite a long ways back from Mowat, who's running in P14. You have to go back to this man, Eric Christensen, in that very flashy Mercedes to find the next driver in that AM class. So not going to give it to him yet because we still have 9.5 minutes left to go. But Andrew Mowat, thus far in the first 20.5 minutes, showing that pace that he has done all season long.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's a very unique paint scheme. And I did see a car off the cart, 28, right, sitting there is being very patient, waiting on an opportunity to get back out on the track as he's sitting there just at the bridge and manages to get his way back going forward again. But yeah, saw him in the shot there for quite a while as we were panning back through the grid.
As we continue to follow these drivers, oh boy, that could have ended in tears. Alexander Reuter and Andrew Little getting involved in that action as well. I couldn't even read out the names on the screen. Corey Smith was certainly not the benefactor, and all of that got nudged off the track heading down into 2 and 3. It's an inviting spot to try and go for some moves, but can also end in pure unbridled disaster, as we see Sean Fritz, who's had a rather disastrous race thus far. He gets out just based off the way that number 11 Porsche is looking. Runs a little bit wide heading down into turn number 5. Does not loop it heading through there, despite that car looking like a bit of a hoopty-rod, as we take a look and see this very close call. Corey Smith, he nearly got wrecked coming out of turn number 1, goes for the dive into turn number 3, and oh, that could have ended so much worse than that did.
Yeah, it really could have. And yeah, that was very smart by, was that Fritz coming into 5 to just basically check up and go through the gravel, because that rear wing is not very big, but it is very functional, especially when you're trying to go through a medium to high speed corner. You want to make sure that thing's in place. Obviously his was not, and so he said, you know what, I'm not going to even try this. Let me just back out of it and let these guys go, which is a very smart move.
As we see Lincoln Olsen running in 6th as it stands at the present moment. That number 38 car up 9 spots from where he started in this race. Don't think I'm going to mention the hard charger, because I feel like every single time I mention them, some sort of misfortune ends up striking them. Even to Little, who was a hard charger, I'm not sure if he is anymore, as he's lost out on a couple of spots and a couple of seconds since then. He's tied for the hard charger as it stands currently. Yeah, there you can see it's himself and Malone tied on 9 spots gained. Lincoln Olsen, though, finds himself in a rather good spot to be the runner-up in that category, up 9 spots, and this would be a very good drive for him if he can hold on to it. Still feeling the pressure from Trent McMillan and Bob Keach, though, so it's not going to be smooth sailing for Olsen.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I'm just kind of looking at the board, and we've got I'm kind of shocked to have to say this, but we've got a big gap between P1 and P2. It's ballooned up to 2.4 seconds, and that's I'm going to say that maybe Soto made a mistake somewhere during the last couple of laps, and so that's managed to kind of break up that battle for the win, at least for the time being. And Zane Cross is actually catching Goff. He's the gap's now 1.2, so there might be a battle for that final podium position before it's all said and done, as we talked about earlier.
And to break away from the discussion about all the racing stuff going on the racetrack as it stands at the present moment, I'm not sure if it was caught on the microphone. I got rather scared a few moments ago as we see Dom Batts and Robson making contact, heading through turn number 1. That's going to send Robson off into the gravel trap. He's not going to be very happy at all. Contact being made with himself, and Batts nearly loops it again, trying to rejoin the racetrack. Thankfully, he spun at the right time, because if he didn't spin, I think Sean Gaynor would have come in and augured straight into the side of that number 20 car who we see on screen right now. Got to take a look at a replay to see this moment, and getting the live reaction from Robson as well. Batts goes for the move on the inside, taking the shallow approach into it. Robson, not a lot that he could have done there. Turn 1 is a 1.5 lane wide corner at best, and really a 7/10 of a car width wide at best. So that's at worst, I should say. Well, at best if you're driving a GTP car, but nevertheless, that's not going to end well whenever you see side-by-side racing heading off into turn number 1. Not going to see that right now, so I'll wrap up on the other story that I was going to share. Up as I say that Halsben running wide coming out of turn number 1. That's going to allow Ahmed to slip up into 11th. Well held there from Eric Halsben. But I'll finally be able to spit this story out. If you heard a little bit of panic in my voice a couple of moments ago, gentlemen, that was because I have my window open for tonight. I guess the vacuum generated from having the window open caused my bedroom door to open on me with no sort of outside pressure. So I was kind of worried that some ghosts had broken into my house.
No, I think you're okay. I don't think you're going to have to worry about ghosts tonight. Well, I say that. I don't know. You're in Philadelphia. But
this entire city's a ghost town.
We see Badoon. I'm gonna guess. I'm hoping that's at least close. Looks like he is driving through, so it looks like a drive through for him for incident points. As we see Kumar in pit lane as well. He's stopping. It looks like it's a drive through for him as well. So so we're seeing a couple of drivers hit the incident limit for tonight, so they're having to take their drive-through penalty and rejoining the track.
And I still feel kind of bad about what I've done to Arush Kumar's race. He was running so well, and then I mentioned it, and then his race fell down like a rock thrown into a pond. Let's see Lincoln Olsen running in P6. Still having to withstand that pressure from Trent McMillan right behind. These drivers are coming to the end of the race, though, with only about 3.5, coming up to just 3 minutes on the clock. We probably have 2-ish laps of racing action, depending on where Paul Darling is on the track as it stands at the present moment. Certainly 31 seconds in front of Lincoln Olsen as it stands currently. Darling on track for another win this season, and really bringing the fight to Russell Soto, who the last time this series was covered on a full-time basis here on Apex Racing TV, Russell Soto was the dominant champion in the Formula 4s. But here, with the GT4s, he is not showing that same level of prominence. Still very quick, do not get me wrong, but Paul Darling, at least in the past couple of weeks, has really seemed to have Russell Soto's number.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Darling's done a great job when he's here, and it looks like he just set the fastest lap of the race again with 1:25. Oh, that's going to be close. I think they're going to be just a few seconds short of this being white flag. I think they're going to have one more to go when they come back. So just kind of eyeballing it. It was very close. So I'm not really sure if this is the white flag or if it's white flag next time by.
And let's see how much time is left for these drivers. Certainly not a lot of time compared to what they started with. This 30-minute long race has certainly flown by for a lot of these drivers. Following Anthony Cuthbert in the number 36 car, currently running in 17th as it stands at the present moment. He's had a pretty rocky race up to this point, missing the front bumper. That front bumper probably already for sale on eBay or. Should I start saying eBay or should I start referring to it as Facebook Marketplace? There we go. That's usually where you find some of the sketchiest stuff. Oh, that was a sketchy moment. Heading down into turn number 6. That's Stephen Cohn nearly coming to blows with Zohar Ahmed heading off into the corner. That's going to allow Andrew Herschel to break away from these two drivers a little bit, and running wide coming out of the corner is Ahmed. That's going to allow Stephen Cohn to fight back going onto the back straightaway.
Yeah, it was a very, very close battle there, and it's not over with yet. Looks like that 25 car is still Stephen Kahn still working to the outside here, trying to get by. He's going to be on the inside into turn 10, and let's see if he can make the move. Very, very close. I think that might have been a. If he's still going, I was going to say that looked very close to being maybe a time penalty there for that corner cut. But so far, no, not so much. But I do see the white flag, so we are on the last lap for most everybody out here.
Just one more lap of racing action. The action's still intense between these two. Hang off into turn number 1. Zohar Ahmed trying to hold his own on the outside, and he's going to get that move done on Khan to slip his way up into P10. Well done from Ahmed. Not a really smooth race for him. Already down 4 spots from where he started in this race, but nevertheless, a really valiant effort. Nevertheless, talk about a valiant effort. Paul Darling in the Solpec car, heading his way through that turn 10 chicane for the last time in this race. As the time ticks away, that timer ticks up for that gap to himself and Russell Soda. And for the second time in 2 weeks, Paul Darling going to win here from the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series. There's a checkered flag for Darling. He's the winner in that number 155 Porsche. Russell Soda got to be classed right behind in P2. 4.5 seconds between those drivers right at the line. Ryan Goff made his way up 2 spots from where he started. He's going to occupy your final podium spot in 3rd at the end of this race. That's to wait a little bit for Zane Cross to cross the line in 4th. See what I did there? That was terrible. I apologize. Kevin Rold finishes right behind a P5, completing your overall top 5. We'll have to wait a little bit for your AM winner of Andrew Mowat to cross the line. He, in the number 14 car, is on track for his 3rd win this season, as 3rd win in a row as well. Very well done from Andrew Mowat in that number 14 McLaren, heading down the hill through turn number 12, and there's a checkered flag for Mowat in the AM class. He is your winner at the end of this race at Road Atlanta. Looks like Christensen is going to be your P2 finisher of the AMS class down in 17th, and Smith will be your final of the podium finishers in the AM category class down in 20th. Charles, that was a pretty tame race, all things considered. A little bit of tonic after that bucket full of gin that we had at Laguna Seca.
Yeah. It was a tame race in comparison, but I just think it goes out to the drivers for putting on a good show. There was a couple of we had that early incident, but for the most part, it was car to car contact here and there. But yeah, great racing. Obviously, Darling and Soto just kind of checked out on everybody, and Darling was able to outlast them. But good racing in the mid-pack, also good racing for that amateur class win. So, yeah, well done to everybody.
And credit where credit's due as well to the pro driver of Matt Malone, classed in 13th at the end of this race. That is 12 spots gained. So for the second week in a row, the hard charger going to make up 12 spots. Seems like an odd trend forming here, because in the first 2 races we had Dom Batts finish 25 spots up from where he started, and Paul Darling was actually the hard charger for the race at Navarra, up 24 spots from where he started there. Ever since then, we've had that hard charger position gain stat cut in half. So who knows, for the final 2 races of this season, we may have a hard charger only making up 6 spots. I doubt it, though. These fields have been absolutely incredible and incredibly competitive as well. And for the final 2 races of the season at Mid-Ohio and Road America, some other very good racetracks, and rather fitting that Mid-Ohio, the successor to Road Atlanta in terms of hosting the SCCA National Championship runoffs, and the current host of the National Championship runoffs of Road America, are going to be the next 2 races of this season. But before I talk more about the history of the SCCA, let's take a look at the results at the end of this race here at Road Atlanta. A race that, when everything is said and done, is won by Paul Darling and the 155 Solpec Precision Esports car. Second tries a charm with that team name pronunciation. He ends up winning it over Russell Soto in P2. Ryan Goff going to round out your overall podium in 3rd. Zane Cross going to be classed in 4th. Kevin Rold going to finish right behind in 5th. We have Lincoln Olson, Trent McMillian, and Bob Keach finishing in 6th, 7th, and 8th respectively. Those 3 drivers gives a really close battle to talk about all throughout that race we had a couple of moments ago. Andrew Herschel finishes in 9th. Zohar Ahmed going to round out your overall top 10. 10. Stephen Cohn going to be classed in 11th. Andrew Mowat will win it in the AM category, classed in 12th. Then we have Matt Malone, the hard charger, classed in lucky number P13. Eric Hallsben, who was the center of attention all throughout that race, he ends up in 14th. Richard Shaib will be classed in P15. David Moreno in 16th. Eric Christensen in P18. Anthony Cuthbert will be classed in 18th at the end of this race. And rounding out your top 20 is going to be Andrew Little and Corey Smith.
Yep, Chad Goddell finishes in 21st, Cody Hicks in 22nd, Jackson Olson in 23rd, Dom Batts falls down to 24th, Mike Schmidt is in 25th, Sean Gaynor 26th, Alan Robson in 27th, Dustin Dark in 28th. We roll to the next page. Arush Kubar in 29th, Ahmed Badoun in 30th, Alex Reuter in 31st, Louis Bellotta in 32nd, Ari Reuter in 33rd, Sean Fritz 34th, Abdul Huda in 35th, Dave Grudzinski finishes in 36th, Van Esch is in 37th, Kyle Baran in 38th, and Chris Walker 39th. Neither one of those drivers started the race. And I think that is it for your race results.
And so those are the results at the end of this fourth race of the championship. And should be noted, we saw him a couple of moments ago when we were going through the results. Lincoln Olson's brother, Jackson Olson, was making his DRSCCA debut tonight, just turned 14, and is heading to the Waterford Road Racing School this April. Thank you, Roger, who I would assume is Lincoln and Jackson's father, potentially. Roger, if you're still in the YouTube chat, you can let us know about that. But always nice to see a family affair when it comes to these races. But Charles, we got some drivers waiting off in the interview waiting area. Got our pro and am winners. I'll let you take first dibs on who you want to have a chat with.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna start tonight with the am winner. We're gonna bring Andrew Mowat in, and I'll save Paul for you. Andrew, congratulations, another am victory tonight. Pretty tight battle in that mid pack where you were. Had some competition trying to work their way up, just could not quite get up to you tonight.
It was close. You know, we had some good battles going. Went 3 wide in turn 1 at one point in time, and just happy that I survived that one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not the place you want to try 3 wide. There's as a matter of fact, there's very few places here you want to try 3 wide.
Correct, sir.
So anything that we might have missed, just like I said, it was a good battle between you and there were 2 or 3 cars around you, and it seemed like you guys were just fighting each other for the entire race.
Yeah, I believe Richard Scheib was up with me, and I can't remember who the other person was, but yeah, it was just try not to make a mistake and stay with everybody. Keep your nose clean and hope for the best.
That's all you can do sometimes. So we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs, and we'll let you go for tonight. We'll see you next week.
All right, thank you guys. I'm gonna shout out my dad. He went to the hospital this morning, so hopefully he's doing all right, and we'll go from there.
All right, Andrew, congratulations. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
And that right there is Andrew Mowat, and certainly prayers going out to his father. That is not ideal at all, but he's still your winner in the AM category, and hopefully his father will be slightly cheered up by the news that his son was able to do so well in this race this evening. We also got Paul Darling waiting there in the interview waiting area. I'll drag him in to have a quick little chat with our pro winner for the second time this season. Paul, welcome into the commentary booth, and congratulations on your win here at Road Atlanta. How about you talk us through it?
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, it was much more, hopefully visually intense than the last one. Russell was on my butt for, I don't know, what was it, first 10, 15 laps. I went low downforce, and I knew Russell had max downforce. So I just had to make sure I didn't compromise any of my exits to let him get a run. I figured I'd be safe as long as I could keep the consistency, and I was able to. And I think my tires lasted a bit longer than the Mercedes did on that one, so I was happy with the performance.
I can imagine grabbing your second win this season in just 4 races is certainly a good result. I will say, Paul, full transparency, you are in my little graph in my notes 3 times for not only your 2 wins back-to-back this season, but also your performance at Navarro before then, where you're the hard charger up 24 spots in that race for round number 2. But we're entering the final 2 rounds of this championship, the final third. Mid-Ohio coming up in 1 week's time. You're looking to try and win this championship, so how are you feeling about Mid-Ohio?
Oh, no, I won't be able to win the championship. Number 1, Russell is too consistent, I think. As long as he keeps finishing in the top 3, there's no shot, but also I'll be out of town.
Well, that would do. Oh, play me like a fiddle. Thank you very much, Paul. But yeah, that would certainly do it. But Ohio is still a good racetrack, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for Road America the week afterward, because that's another good racetrack there as well. But Paul, before we let you go and celebrate this win at Road Atlanta tonight, is there anybody you'd want to give a thanks to or shout out?
I just got to thank the Detroit SCCA region and Superlap for putting this on. And thank you guys for putting on a good broadcast.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you very much for the kind words, and thank you for joining us in the commentary booth, Paul, and congratulations on your win here tonight.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
And that right there was Paul Darling, your winner in the pro category, and your winner overall at the end of this race at Road Atlanta. That was the anticlimax to end all anticlimax in terms of, yeah, you're going into the final 2 races battling for a championship. And he's like,
No, not.
oh, that's
No.
I mean, credit where credit's due. I get. I'm not too sure, but Charles, Mid-Ohio in 1 week's time. You're gonna be with me for that broadcast, correct?
I think that I am. Yes. So,
And, that's a good track too. Another old school American road course, of course, synonymous with the SCCA. So that's gonna be real fun.
yeah, it is, and it's a much more technical track than what we've experienced this season. This is very, very tight, as you said, old school road course. It's just a couple of spots where you can go 3 wide on the straightaways. There's no places in there that you can go 3 wide through a corner. So that's going to make life very difficult if you have a bad qualifying run, start from the back. It's going to be very, very tough to work your way through the field. So the hard charger may be 3 next week. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, that race at Mid-Ohio in 1 week's time is going to be a riot, either in a good way or in a catastrophically bad way. But hey, regardless of how it is, you better tune into that broadcast here on Apex Racing TV in 1 week's time, because that is going to be some fun. But as for tonight's broadcast of the DRSCCA Sim Racing Series presented by Superlap, that will just about do it. And so, for myself, Ron Mullins, Charles Bichelle joining me in the commentary booth, and Josh Wilkie working on the cameras in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your night, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not-too-distant future.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.